We have on Mr. William Branum, who is a Navy SEAL veteran of 26 years of service. We talk about essentially how lessons and strategies from the battlefield can be applied to the boardroom and beyond. We also talk about his 5 Navy SEAL secrets. We're going to be diving into this episode of the Happiest Podcast. Do you want blissful balance in your personal and professional life? Great. What's up, guys? My name is Kerry Jack, and I want to help you happy hustle a life you love, one full of passion, purpose, and positive impact. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur, a professional model / actor, a digital marketing specialist, a podcast host, author, a biohacker, an eco-warrior, a martial artist, a hippie cowboy, and a humanitarian. My goal is to educate, inspire, and entertain you to live a life of passion, purpose, and positive impact. It is time to happy hustle your dream reality. Yee-yee. All right, my brother, Mr. William Branum, welcome back to the Happy Hustle Podcast. I am super stoked to rock the mic with you.
You know what? I'm stoked to be here. Prior to us hitting record, I think we've already recorded like 3 podcasts prior to us even like starting this whole thing.
That is true, man. We got a lot to cover, a lot of commonalities, and we were talking life and family and business, and you have a very interesting background because you are a founder and CEO of Naked Warrior Recovery, a CBD company focused on recovery of veterans and first responders. But you're also a retired Navy SEAL with 26 years of service. You've served both as a traditional SEAL team, in the traditional SEAL teams, and you were also a sniper instructor. You've also specialized in many other missions, underseas operations. You've led major combat operations ranging from protecting the interim Iraqi elected officials to direct action missions in Baghdad and across Anbar province. You have a very robust military career, but also you're, a speaker, a leadership consultant, a podcaster. You're an author of your new book, which I'm excited to talk about, Mission Ready: Building High-Performing Teams from the Battlefield to the Boardroom. And I don't think there's many people who are more qualified to talk about this concept than you. So I'm really excited to get into some of these battle-tested strategies, William. But before we do, let's ask the question that I kick things off with every time, which is, what is something interesting about William that not too many people know?
That everything I do now, I swore I would never do. I swore once upon a time. I think the last time I was on here, I said, I got shot while I was turkey hunting.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
So this time I'll tell you that it surprises people when I tell them that everything I do now are all the things I swore I would never do. When I retired from the SEAL teams, I said I'm never going to be in sales because I hate sales. I think sales are sleazy and all that other stuff, and that's actually not true. Sales is just providing a service. It's an exchange of energy is really what it is.
Right.
Let's see. I swore I'd never be in sales. I swore I'd never be one of those guys on stage going rah, rah, rah. Well, I get on stage and I go rah, rah, rah. And it turns out I do an all right job at it. I shock myself every time it happens. And I'd never be one of those life coach, Tony Robbins, whatever weird people. I'm one of those guys too. I coach business and leadership and all sorts of stuff. And really all comes down to personal development. And which I have to continue to work on my own self every single day. I think the thing that surprises most people is I tell people that I'm lazy, naturally lazy. And they're like, you're a Navy SEAL. There's no way you're lazy. I'm like, I am absolutely lazy. I have to fight that battle every day I get up and get out of bed.
Yeah, I mean, that is interesting. You swore you're never going to do any of these things, and here you are doing them at the highest level. You're not just doing them, you're doing them at the highest level. And I feel like, most great leaders are somewhat lazy because they learn how to delegate and automate and eliminate. Would you agree with that?
Oh, that's a primary focus of leadership.
Yeah.
And really it's the second, I guess, secret of the book we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting stuff. I mean, to just think about how we can actually leverage our time more effectively. And, I do want to just dive right in. I mean, you were a SEAL for so long, you learned a ton of different things, but you distilled them into 5 SEAL secrets. And I do want to reference our first pod that we did together for people. We're going to link it up in the show notes if you guys want to kind of go deep down the get naked philosophy. But before we kind of get into Mission Ready, your new book, I do want to hit on those 5 SEAL secrets because they're so powerful. Just break them down for us. What does get naked mean, and how can people potentially leverage them to become more effective?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So the get naked mind, I call it the get naked mindset. And really, when I started talking about get naked, I was talking about taking that ego off, taking that armor that you're hiding behind off, so you can expose yourself, become vulnerable, so you can find the healing that you actually need. And I needed that, when I got out of the SEAL teams, because I was drinking myself to sleep at night. CBD was a modality that helped me sort of turn down the noise in my head, so I could have more positive self-talk and things like that. Which is why I started Naked Warrior Recovery. And then one of my business coaches was like, everyone here needs a signature presentation. And it's like it's kind of like your standing TED talk or your talking business card, where you basically, it's something you can deliver in 10 or 15 minutes, or you can extend, take it out to like 90 plus minutes. And so it's something you're an expert in. And I was like, what am I an expert in? I can shoot people in the face. I know how to hunt bad guys. I know how to do stuff like that. I'm not sure how that equates to business or leadership or, the civilian world. And so I was already using the tagline again, get naked, which was really about taking that ego, that armor off. And so I decided to turn get naked into an acronym, but I can't do 8 letters, GETNAKED, in a 10-minute like speaking block. So I was like, okay, what about naked? What message do I want? And so I've created naked. Naked is the acronym. So the N stands for never quit. The A is accept failure. The K is to kill mediocrity. The E is exposure fears. And the D is do the work. And you have to do those every single day. And they're all synergistic to one another. And again, I think we cover it pretty good on the podcast, but it's also the keynote that I generally give. And it's a very powerful keynote. I'm not saying that because I think it is. I'm saying that because I've had so many people come up to me after I speak, and they're like, I can't, like, that's like, I'm ready to like run through walls now based off, what you just delivered. So it's, I think probably when I throw the man in the arena in there, that really, puts a cherry on top, because I've learned to do that pretty well. And I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, but my goal is to be on a stage with more than 2,000 people in the audience. And then when I do the man in the arena, is to bring my 11-year-old daughter in, and she and I are going to say it together, where I'll start it and I'll say the poorest way to face a life, and she'll say us to face it with a sneer. And then we'll just kind of go back and forth. If I can keep a straight face, I'll probably have like snot bubbles and crying the whole time. But that's my goal at the end of the day, is to have a venue that's over 2,000 people. I'll bring her from Hawaii, pull her out of school, put her on that stage, and we'll do it together. And then my life will be, I will be a very happy man, father, you name it.
Heck yeah,
So.
man. Dude, that is an epic goal. And I mean, I gotta like mention this because I think it's so awesome. So in our Happy Hustle Club, which William's a part of, our high level mastermind for entrepreneurs and badass happy hustlers, every time someone's late, you got to sing 15 seconds of a song. So we've heard renditions of Barbie Girl to, Happy Birthday to, Celine Dion, whatever. But when William comes a little bit late, he does Man in the Arena. And it's, if you're not familiar with Man in the Arena, it's Teddy Roosevelt's speech, right? When did he first give it? Do you know exactly?
Oh, it was over, I think it was 1914, I
Right.
believe, in France.
Yeah.
And the speech that he gave is actually quite long. It's like over an hour long. And so these quotes of Man in the Arena have kind of been extracted from that. The original speech was called Citizenship in the Republic.
Ah, cool.
And so, and when I'm on stage and I say Teddy Roosevelt wrote this speech called Citizenship in the Republic, people aren't expecting Man in the Arena. And when I start it, I don't start it where everyone else starts. I start it like a verse early. And so they're not quite sure, but they're like, this sounds familiar. This sounds pretty cool. And then it just crescendos and gets bigger and better.
Yeah.
And then, so,
I mean, well, every time you do it, I got to say, I enjoy when you're a little bit tardy because I freaking get fired up. I can run through a wall afterwards because he really brings it, y'all. So I got to say, go watch that keynote. Where can people actually go to watch that keynote that you give? Is it on your
you
website?
know what? There is there. I'll post it somewhere on YouTube. It'll be
Okay.
on my YouTube channel. I think it's the Navy SEAL Mindset, which is my podcast. It'll be on that channel, the Navy SEAL
Okay.
Mindset.
Yeah. We'll link that up when we get that. But I do want to just run through the naked acronym because it's gold. And here's just a little bullet point when it comes to creating IP. What William did, what we did with the Happy Hustle in our soul mapping system, this is the essence of a great brand. You have to have your own IP. So just fun fact for all, because a lot of entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs, that's the Happy Hustlers. That's who listens and watches the show. So if you don't have your own IP, you need to sit there and really do the work and figure out what you feel so called to bring to the world that you could put your stamp on. And the naked acronym, again, it's powerful. Never quit, right? Accept failure, kill mediocrity, expose your fears, and do the work, right? I mean, it's powerful. And then you get the get part, right? Which I know that's this
Well, it's
action
because
verb.
we're talking about taking action. You have to get
Right.
naked.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, this is just powerful stuff, man. And I really love your mission too with Naked Warrior Recovery. I know you dropped the stat the last podcast that I was unaware of at the time, but now it just hits me. I think about it actually often, but 22 veterans
Yep.
kill themselves
Every
every
single day.
single day. That's freaking
Yeah.
crazy.
It's
And
crazy.
I mean, and I know you're helping with your business, like your Naked Warrior Recovery, give back to veterans and to help prevent this problem. But I mean, I just feel like, God damn, this is such a problem. And we don't even talk about it. We send billions of dollars to Ukraine, but we don't even help our own veterans fight in
Yeah,
our own.
it's crazy. Yeah.
I don't want to
It's
get
it's
into too much politics, but I think everyone needs to know this fact of like, this is a big problem. And people like William, they get out of serving our country and there's not many resources, So why
right.
do you think I guess one beat here. Let's just go there. Why do you think it is? Why do you think many of your fellow veterans do go down that dark path?
Man, I'll say that there's probably 10,000 different reasons. I know when I got out of the military, I was super lost. I
Yeah.
lost like I did I did a TED talk about this. When I got out of the military, I felt like I lost my mission, my purpose, and my team. It was overnight. It was like that Avengers movie where Thanos snaps his fingers and half the universe's population vanishes all at once. You have team, you have purpose, you have family right there, and the next second it's all gone.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell do I do with my life? I
Mm,
had to I don't like to say that I went into a form of depression, but I absolutely did.
yeah.
And it took me a long time to sort of like pull myself out of it. I pulled myself out of it because I wanted to pull myself out of it because I knew I had greatness to deliver to the world. I just didn't know what that was, and it took me a long time to figure that out.
Yeah, man. Gosh. Yeah, because your whole identity shifts overnight,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's there's got to be a better way to transition into civilian life, I feel
And
like.
it's not even specific to veterans. It's you any like high performer I got a buddy that was he was a drummer for Megadeth and a couple other like heavy metal bands. When COVID came around, he refused to take the jab, and so he's like,
Mm,
well, he's out of a job, so he's got to go find something else to do.
yeah.
I have a one of my business coaches. He took a company from 500 million that was doing $300 million a year, barely breaking even, and in 5 years he sold it. He took it over and then sold it 5 years later for $3.4 billion. And
Whoa.
then after he sold the company, he was like, what do I do with myself? Like he
Right,
was ready to
right.
put a
Yeah.
gun in his mouth. He had no idea. Like, and
Wow.
this happens across the board to super
Yeah.
successful people. And I think we have some people in the Happy Hustle Club that have kind of gone through some
Yeah.
weird, interesting life transitions where they're like, oh, they didn't have a plan for the
Yeah.
next thing that they're going to do.
Hmm. Yeah, that's
And so
very
that's
interesting.
really the secret is like figure out what you want to do before you exit whatever the thing is you're doing now. Figure
Yeah.
out what that next thing is that you want to do and start planning for it and start practicing it. Like it doesn't matter what it is. Just go. It doesn't, and you don't have to keep doing that thing that you like transition into.
Yeah.
That can just be like a stepping stone to the thing that you're gonna do next.
Exactly, man. And just in terms of happy hustling, like I think a lot of people put so much emphasis on the destination and when I get this exit or when I, get this award or accolade or whatever it
Right.
is, they
Now what?
forget that you really need to put joy in the journey, put your happy in the hustle. And that way you're not having this massive dopamine dump right when you get to where you're going. You need to really create fulfillment and have other things that you're, you know, waking up excited to do, not just
Yeah.
focus on this identity with your career. And that's, again, our whole ethos is how do we systematically harmonize ambition and well-being, right? That's the happy
Right.
hustle definition. Ambition, crushing it professionally, yeah, doing the thing, right? Making money and impact, but also well-being, right? Like taking care of your family, your friends, being a
Yep.
man of God, a community servant, whatever that looks like for you, well-being. But I just think these two different parts of the equation, sometimes it's either or. And I think, that's why the happy hustle exists. And that really what obviously sent me on my journey, because I was just focused on ambition, early on. What for you, I guess, how do you now balance the two, the ambition and the well-being?
Well, before I answer that question, I want to kind of give the Happy Hustle Club kind of a shout out, just because it's been super interesting. Like I get so much joy when I go to those meetings, and kind of sometimes in some ways there it's an accountability call, in some ways it's other things,
Yep.
business and education and all these other things. But I've watched guys in there. I've watched them. It doesn't happen overnight. Change doesn't happen overnight. Transformation does not
Right.
happen overnight. But I've watched several guys, and I could name names, but I won't. Like watch the light bulb finally come on for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I know I've had, individual conversations with some of the guys, and like I hear, what things they're struggling with, and I, get on and try to give them some guidance, or someone else talks to them about some stuff, and it's taken a year or two, and they're like, oh, and I'm watching the transformation starting to happen, and the way that they're thinking about things start to like finally take place, where if they didn't
Mm,
have that outlet, or that input, that venue of other like-minded men, entrepreneurs with very different backgrounds, to
right.
like, and they were open enough to like take what they were receiving, what they were hearing, and starting to apply it little by little in their life. Like they're like I've seen extreme growth come from the Happy Hustle Club, and I'm
Mm.
super stoked to be a part of it.
Thank you, brother. I received that, and I appreciate you saying it. And I'll give you your 10% affiliate commission later. So no, I mean truly, bro. I'm so grateful to have you in there. You bring so much to the club, and it's just whether you're part of the Happy Hustle Club or any other like community. I just think now more than ever we have to be a part of community that is not just online meeting but offline too, especially with
Yeah.
AI and technology just inundating our everyday reality. We're missing this human to human connection and being raw and real with people who can resonate. And I just find so much value in it that that's why we do it. It's just extremely valuable for myself. First and foremost, I
Right.
like it's like a form of therapy, it's a form of business
Yeah,
mentorship,
100%.
it's like
And
everything.
and the
Yeah.
other thing that like really caught me off guard is like you got some pipe hitters in there, and they show up and they will just be extremely vulnerable, and I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, I'm not ready to be that vulnerable. I'm scared.
It's true. It's true. We've kind of bred that
It's
into the club.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Guys will just
impressive.
talk right about, oh, stuff going on with their marriage or and look, not to make this a commercial about, masterminds or Happy Hustle Club, but again, this is where the true transformation happens. If you want to expedite your success, get in a community of like-minded people.
100%.
And speaking of which, I know you have one, and you have a mentorship program, and you have a high-level coaching program. You're also doing an
Yeah.
awesome event coming up. Before we get into the book stuff, let's just tease that a little bit. I know there's one coming up in December 2024. Give us a
Yeah.
little insight of what's that all about.
Yeah, so before I do that, I just wanted to share with you before I forget. I told you that I'm sitting in front of a lake right now,
Yeah.
where I'm currently living, and there was a plane on the lake turning around. It just did a U-turn, and I'm like, what am I
What?
watching right now? So that was cool and weird,
Oh,
up
heck
here
yeah.
in Connecticut.
Cool.
But so the SEAL Leadership Challenge is the event I'm running December 6th in Temecula, California. Um, it's a relatively small in-person event, 10 to 12 people, men, women, where I teach basically lessons that I learned from the battlefield.
Mm,
We teach lessons that I talk about in the book, but I talk about, uh, you know, why ways of communication, why it's important. We run around the obstacle course out there at the ranch in Temecula. After every event, I pull out like, what are the lessons you learned from this event? We run it individually, we run it as a team, maybe we run it carrying heavy objects throughout the obstacles. Um, we talk, we don't talk, we learn different ways of communication. And after every event, we break down everything that we do, every lesson we learn during that event, and then how does that apply to leadership? And everything
Mm,
comes back to leadership.
mm,
And then you get the airsoft guns, and we'll run through the kill house, and I'll teach you how to handle an active shooter. And the first thing I do is teach you how to handle an active shooter, is because you may be somewhere in the world, in society, and something happens in a school, in a restaurant, in a whatever. I want you to know how to handle this.
yeah.
And you can teach someone how to handle it very, very quickly. And then you will take those lessons that I teach you how to handle an active shooter, even if they are a trained professional, you can still take them out.
Mm,
If they're working as in a team, that's a different dynamic. But if it's an individual, I can take you and one other person, and we can take them out. They cannot stop you.
mm,
And then I take those lessons and I apply that to how to clear rooms, like close quarters combat. Um, and then I teach you the lessons of combat, of close quarters. Like, why is this important? Well, what if someone breaks into your house and your family, your kids are on the other side, or your wife or other side of the house, and there's someone in the middle? You need to tactically, safely move from where you are to where they are,
yeah.
or maybe move everyone to a safe location and hold up until the police get there. But how do all those things apply to business? How do those things apply to leadership? So, like, one thing, for example, like, as you move through the room, your perspective of the room changes. As you move on
Mm,
the battlefield, your perspective on the battlefield changes. You from left to right. When you walk through the room, you're going to see the room differently, and no one really thinks about this. But
mm,
if you slow down and you walk through the room, or you walk through life, you walk through business, every time you do something, your perspective of the battlefield changes, your perspective of the room changes. So I use these real world scenarios to
mm,
teach people about leadership, about business, about things like that. And so one of the things that I recently started teaching was, back in July, I think I went down to Mexico and did a week of ibogaine, which is like the mother of all sort of psychedelic medicines.
yeah. Yeah.
And one of the
Intense.
things I kept seeing in there was, I kept seeing these corners, and I'm like, what the heck is up with the corners? Well, in close quarters combat, you can clear most of the room from the outside, but you can't clear the corners until you very purposefully go into the room and want to clear that corner and make sure there's nothing in there. You can apply that exact same concept to leadership. You can be working with someone, you can see kind of what their demeanor is, kind of what they've got going on in life, but you don't really know what's going on in their life until you actually have sort of this intrusive leadership where you start actually talking to them and asking them questions,
Mm,
and kill them with curiosity.
yeah.
That's how you enter the room and clear the corner of whatever they've got going on. Become curious about what's going on.
Yeah. Wow. Powerful metaphor. Yeah. Yeah. Like,
So then we do that, and then we do a little bit of ground fighting, because really, at the end of the day, what if you find yourself in a worst case scenario? And then I like, what are the lessons we learned here? How does that apply to leadership? And then we do kind of a full mission profile, kind of a final training exercise at the end, where we culminate everything. And basically, it really comes down to this gunfight leadership thing that I'm teaching, is giving you the tools to lead in a very stressful environment, just like leading in a gunfight. It's the most stressful scenario in the world. If I can teach men to lead in a gunfight, I can teach anyone to lead in any scenario, no matter how
yeah.
stressful it is, and give you the
That
tools to do that.
that's so true, man. Like all that battlefield training translates to real life and
100%.
business. And it's like if you can operate in that extreme adversity, you could operate in any boardroom, in any business situation. And this is the type of training that is imperative for confidence building as well. I feel
Yes.
like now with everything going on in the world, if you're not well versed in this type of situational training, you're kind of walking around with your pants down. Speaking of getting naked, it's
Yeah.
like
100%. And not the kind
you're
of
just
naked
like,
you want either.
yeah, and you
That's
don't
the
want to be
naked where
that.
you're gonna dream and you're like, oh my God, I can't run away fast enough.
Right, right. You'll be that person who's just running, and it's like, um, yeah, I'm all for it, man. I love what you're up to, and I think how you make that correlation between being an amazing leader and crushing it in business, as well as, being physically, mentally fit and able to handle a worst case scenario. This stuff is what makes the difference oftentimes in, you know, these extreme situations. So that training, we resort to our lowest level of training oftentimes in
Yeah.
high stressful situations. Same thing with leadership. If you have an employee who maybe there's a conflict and you need to go into the corner and you need to clear it and figure out what is really the root cause of that problem,
Yeah.
in your business. I love it, man. So it's sealleadershipchallenge.com. Is that where people can go to learn more about it?
Yeah, it's like I'm not sure if it's or it's just SEAL Leadership. I think it's sealleadershipchallenge.com.
Got it. All right. We'll
I
link
should know
that
my
up.
own URL, but yeah, I'm sure there'll be a link in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll link that up for sure. Well, let's get in the book, man, because the book is freaking awesome. I mean, you got some really powerful lessons. What you did 9 combat tours, isn't that right? 9, or
I
was it 8?
did seven combat
No,
tours,
7 combat tours.
10 total deployments, but 7 were to combat,
And
4
then
to
there were,
Iraq and 3 to Afghanistan. And then
God,
there was some other stuff that we can't talk about.
right? I figured there's probably lots we can't talk about. We'll talk about it around the campfire, me and you. But I
No,
mean, because
I can't even talk about that.
okay,
I've
fine,
been.
sorry.
It's like what's that movie Men in Black? They go bloop bloop.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, exactly. Well,
they say,
let's just
yeah, if you don't this never happened, you can't remember this, and if you do happen to remember it in any way in the next 150 years, then you will go to jail. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, that's easy to forget with
Yeah.
those consequences. Damn, man. Well, anyway, the point is, like, you've done more deployments than anyone I know personally, and you have real world experience. So I think what oftentimes this online, world lacks is real experience. There's a lot of furus, we call them, fake gurus, right?
Right.
And people who are just like, you know, a 21-year-old life coach who, what the hell are you teaching me about life,
What do you
buddy?
know about
You're
life?
21.
Yeah.
It's like, so no offense. Again, if you're out there in 21, good for you. Go do
I
what you
love the
can.
hustle. Keep
Yeah,
hustling.
yeah. But anyway, the point is you have real battle tested strategies. So let's get into, first and foremost, why the heck did you even write the book? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Apologies for interrupting your programming, but I have to tell you, the best investment you can make in yourself is one in which helps you acquire skills. You've probably heard people talk about, oh, just invest in yourself and you'll be successful. Yes, that's true to a degree, but you have to invest in skills that will ultimately help you achieve your desired results. And I think one of the best skills one can possess, be it an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, is the sales sword. Really knowing how to sell, utilizing pressure free persuasion, which will make you more money and more impact. Now, if you want to know how to sell more efficiently and effectively, I just launched a sales course called The Proven Roadmap Process to Selling Millions of Dollars and helping you to increase your conversions guaranteed. And you can get access to this new sales course that the Happy Hustle is launching at thehappyhustle.com/sales. And if you act fast, you'll get it at the lowest price it'll ever be available, because we are launching it and we want to gain amazing testimonials and social proof to further share this knowledge. So if you act fast, you can get it at the lowest price it'll ever be. That's at thehappyhustle.com/sales. Now let's get back to this episode.
You know, I I guess kind of going back to one of those other things I said. I think I probably said I'd never write a book either.
Yeah.
What am I going to write about? But
Yeah.
I did a presentation a couple years ago at an event in Florida, and one of my accountability partners was there, and she also spoke, and so she's a co-author of this book. She wrote the second half of the book.
Hmm.
She is an HR professional, and I was trying to coin this. I'm the 5 SEAL secrets guy. This was going to be originally the 5 SEAL secrets of leadership. I've since turned it into gunfight leadership because I think that's a little bit sexier. But and these are all lessons learned from leading in a gunfight. So I think it's appropriate. But the I delivered this, these 5 SEAL secrets of leadership And then my accountability partner, Brenda, she was like, hey, after the event, she was like, hey, because she's already written 2 bestsellers.
Oh,
And she was like, hey, what do you think about us writing a book together? You write about the things you spoke about, and I write about the things that I spoke about, and then we publish it, and then I'm sure it'll be a bestseller. I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do it. So I just started writing. Like this is, and and when I was asked to do this other presentation, I'd already delivered my Get Naked presentation to the same venue, so I needed to change it up. So it's not the same at all as my primary thing. I focused everything on leadership, and leadership is about, number one is leading yourself. Number two is about, leading your team, maybe at work, maybe in the office, maybe leading your team at home,
yeah.
because you have to be the leader of your life, of your team. And it doesn't mean that you can't have a partner who's also a great leader in your team, in your family. And I think
Mm,
partnerships are huge. Who you decide to partner with is one of the most important decisions of your life. Your business partner, your family partner, whoever that is, that's going to be one of the most important business decisions, leadership decisions in your life. You want someone who's also going to be a leader, who's going to show up for you and lead you when sometimes we can't always just be leading all the time.
right.
I had a buddy who gave a presentation and he was about men and alpha and beta and all this other stuff. And he was like, if you're in charge, you're the alpha, and when you're not, you're the beta. And I said, I love after his presentation, I said, bro, I love everything that you said except for this one piece, the alpha beta thing. And he was like, oh yeah, tell me why. I was like, so what you're telling me, and I'm going to use, broad strokes here. What you're telling me is if I take my 45-man SEAL task unit into Iraq or Afghanistan or Africa or anywhere in the world, and we're walking, patrolling our way into the target, you're telling me that there is one alpha and 44 betas going into this target?
Mm,
That's what you're telling me, because one guy is in charge. And he was like, oh, I never really thought about it like that. I'm like, no, you have 45 alphas ready to roll and go, but we'll stay subordinate, but ready to lead. So if something happens to that leader, we will step up and we will start leading. And
mm,
also, and we'll kind of cover this in a little bit, like the team is broken down into mini teams, and so
yeah.
there are leaders in each one of those teams. So there's no, like, you're either alpha or beta. And I hate this word sigma. I like when I sometimes post on social media, I'm like, are you an alpha or are you a beta? And I get these guys that have never, they want to lead. I believe that they want to lead, but they don't know how, or they're afraid to. And most people are like, okay, I'm an alpha, and they like sort of his thing is like alpha when I'm in charge, but beta when I'm not. I'm like, no, you're either alpha or you're not. There's
Mm,
no sigma. Sigma is a beta who doesn't want to lead.
mm,
Sigma is the lone wolf. What happens to the lone wolf? The lone wolf can survive, but he cannot thrive ever.
mm.
The
Interesting.
the pack, that wolf pack, will thrive.
Yeah.
They will thrive. The lone wolf will only barely survive, just barely get by. Do you want to thrive in your life, or do you want to survive? I want to
Yeah.
thrive.
Yeah. Amen to that, man.
I went on a
So,
tangent right there, and I apologize.
no, you're good. Good. I like it. I like it. I mean, it's interesting to think about. Like, I feel like really effective leaders, like you said, they they lead, but they lead by example. They lead themselves first.
Right,
And
exactly.
that is such a great sign of an effective leader, in my opinion, is someone who's doing the work and shows up as the example. My question to you, and this is just off the top of my head since we're talking about it, like, how does an alpha know when to transition to beta, potentially in a business situation where you're like, oh, my co-founder actually might be right with this decision, but my ego oftentimes gets in the way because I'm the CEO
Yeah.
or whatever. How do you know? Is there a process that you take people through to know when
Yeah,
to
let me
transition?
correct one thing that you said there. The
Please.
alpha never goes to beta.
Okay, got it.
Alpha is still always alpha,
Got it.
but he can relinquish leadership, that role.
Oh,
And so, and I'll kind of go into let's go into the book, because this kind
please.
of
Yeah.
explains it a little bit. So when I talk about leadership, so usually when I'll go into organizations and I'll do this as a kind of a workshop, and I'll draw on the board. I'll draw a triangle. And so in a gunfight, there's only three things that matter. Not how you feel, not, did you leave your lasagna in the oven, not did you get in a fight with your wife or
Right.
whatever, husband. What matters is you need to be able to shoot, you need to be able to move, and you need to be able to communicate. So what I do is I
Mm,
draw a triangle, a isosceles triangle, equal size. Triangle is the strongest, shape on the planet. Um, and I put shoot, move, and communicate during each one of those. So
mm,
those are the only things that matter in a gunfight. Number one, we're keeping it simple. We don't need to worry about anything else. We need to worry about these three things. And the other part of this is they're all equally important, but they're only important when they're being used at one time. So the kind of the first lesson in gunfight leadership is to multitask like a Navy SEAL. You can try to do a whole bunch of stuff at one time, but you cannot do a whole bunch of stuff effectively at one time. You can only effectively do one thing at a time, purposefully,
right.
focused.
Right.
You can drive down the road, scrolling Instagram, texting messages, smoking a cigarette, putting on lipstick all at the same time, but you're not going to drive effectively
Right.
or anything else. So when you're in a gunfight, you start the gunfight, people are shooting at you, you take cover. Before you can take that first shot, you have to identify where the target is. Where is the enemy? Okay, where's my team? Did one of my team members take cover right in front of me and I just can't see them?
Mm,
And maybe it's nighttime or whatever. So I need to identify where my team is before I ever take a shot, because we have actually killed people in training by shooting our own people because we didn't see them. We didn't
mm,
know they were there. These are lessons learned in blood.
wow.
And so the first thing you do, you identify the enemy, you identify where your team is, what the terrain is, then you line up your sights and you start squeezing the trigger to eliminate the threat. When it's time to pass the word because of where you're going to move or what needs to happen, you actually have to stop shooting, look at the guy or girl to your left or to your right, and you pass the word. And the word has to be very clear and concise, very short message, a very
Mm,
short message that can mean a lot of stuff. So if I say break right, I stop shooting, I look at you, and I say, break right, break right, break right. And you stop shooting, you look at me, you hear me, you kind of maybe see my lips move, and then you reply back, break right, break right. Now that's effective communication. That's two-way communication, because I've conveyed a message to you. You just let me know that you got the message, and now I know that you're going to pass it on to the guy to the other side of you, and then I turn to the guy to the other side of me, and I pass the word. Then the word eventually gets passed. We all know what's going to happen, and then movement starts. So before I start moving, let's say I'm going to start moving from my position to the left. Um, I have to stop shooting. I look and see where I'm going to move to that next piece of cover, and then I haul the mail from my piece of cover to that next piece of cover so I don't get shot, because it's much harder to hit a moving target than a fast moving target than a slow moving target, or
yeah.
a still target versus a moving target.
Right.
So and I can try and shoot while I'm kind of like gangster style, gat, if I'm running, and I can try to like yell out some message, but no one's really going to effectively hear me. It's not going
Right.
to be two-way communication. I'm not going to effectively hit the enemy. I could 1 in 1,000,000,000% chance maybe hit something, but not really
Yeah.
while I'm moving. So I can only move effectively. I can only shoot effectively while I'm shooting, and I can only communicate effectively when I stop moving and I stop shooting. I
Mm,
can only effectively shoot if I stop trying to communicate and I stop shooting.
mm,
That makes
yeah.
sense? So multitask. So coming back to your question, the next secret here for gunfight leadership is I call it leaders get no bullets.
Mm,
And I learned this, or I figured this out by being in charge, but watching my guys like try to learn this how to be in a gunfight. And it's much easier to, what I found, to mentor these new leaders by getting down into the trenches and getting dirty with them,
mm,
showing them exactly what it looks like, or helping demonstrate. And so when you talked about and again, this is answering your question of like, you have a leader, this alpha, whoever, how does he step down and give control to someone else, in like his VP or whatever?
yeah.
So this is exactly what I do is I position myself as the leader, in the in the in the in the in the platoon as a new guy. I don't know anything. I'm going to actually shoot a bunch of targets because as a leader, I don't get to shoot like I used to. My
Mm.
job is to lead and and do all the admin stuff, all the logistic stuff, and all that like not sexy stuff anymore. Like I did as a young guy, getting to shoot all the time and kick doors and all the fun stuff. So now's my opportunity to do the fun stuff that I really like doing, the really SEAL stuff. But I also get to train my new leaders. And so what I do is I position myself next to that brand new leader, and I'm like, listen, I will never ever undermine your call. You make whatever call you think is correct. If you get stuck, I'll, maybe pimp you with some information to help you figure it out. And so we patrol along, we get in the contact, gunfight starts, and that new leader just starts shooting targets. We've got these plastic targets that pop up and down and they shoot back at us like, propane tanks. So we have muzzle flash, we have like audible things to like close in on where the bad guys are. We have the green little targets that pop up and they
Mm.
pop up all around, and the training cadre are controlling them popping up and down. And so we have things to shoot at. And so we get in, we take cover, make sure that we're not going to shoot one another. Where's everyone at? And we start engaging the targets. And that new leader, 100% of the time, he's a brand new Navy SEAL. He's ready to like go kill, take the fight to the enemy. I'm doing my job. And he just starts shooting targets.
Mm.
And we're just sitting there. We're not moving at all. And I'm like, hey, what's the call? And they might stop shooting for a second and look around, not really sure what call it should be. And so they start shooting again. They go back to the thing they know.
Mm.
And so eventually, and so I'll like add more stress. What's the call? We got to get out of here. Oh my God. And then if they make really bad calls, I'll turn to the training cadre and say, hey man, make this suck for us. And then we'll do a debrief. And because they'll start putting the training cadre will start putting guys in the platoon down. And so we have to carry them out. And that really sucks. And so we go back and we redo it and we do a debrief, and I'm, hey, let's do this. After we do a couple runs and the leaders still keep shooting, what I'll do is I'll say, okay, this run you get no bullets in your gun. You get to carry all the bullets. You get one bullet in your gun. That's it. And so, and when you come out of this, you better still have one bullet in your gun. And so what happens is I've just neutered him. I've taken his manliness away, his ability to shoot and do the thing that he wants to do. He thinks he's good at, and actually is maybe better at it than most of the guys on the team. But that's not his job as a leader. His job as a leader is to lead. So if he's looking down the sights of his weapon, he's not looking at his team to see what's going on with his team. He's
Yeah.
not looking at the enemy to see what's going on with the enemy. He's not looking at the terrain to see what's going on with the terrain. So he can't make a decision on which way to maneuver the team to outmaneuver the enemy. And so now that I've taken his bullets away and he feels neutered, he feels inept, now he's forced to look around. I got to find a job. So what's the enemy doing? What's your
Yeah.
competition doing? It applies directly to business. What's your competition doing? What's
Right.
the team doing? What's our dynamic? How are we positioned on the battlefield? What's the terrain of the battlefield?
Mm.
And then if the leader kind of gets stuck, I might say, hey, what about that hillside to the right? Maybe we could go around it. And there's a call for that. Or maybe something that a ravine that we like cross over a few feet back, or maybe even in front of us. Like, let's look at the terrain. And I've done this thousands of times. So as I walk, my mind is always like, what do we do? What do we do in business, in life, and, with my family or whatever. And so when I'm presented with these scenarios, I've already like been kind of working on them. And that's what I'm teaching these young leaders to be, as we're like walking through the woods or the desert, or, the urban environment, like always be thinking about what's the next move going to be. And
Yeah.
then when we do get in that gunfight, we can start applying those lessons learned. So now we're in the gunfight. He doesn't have any bullets. He can't shoot. So he's like, okay. And he makes a call. And then we maneuver. And once he gets good at doing that, then I let him have his bullets back. And then
Mm.
he knows now that his job is not to shoot. His job is to lead. And also
Yeah.
he's got this radio on his back that actually has probably the biggest gun on the battlefield, where he can talk to aircraft overhead that can drop bombs on the enemy instead of like his little one bullet at a time down on the
Yeah.
battlefield. But he
Yeah.
can't do that if he's not understanding what the actual battlefield and enemy situation looks like, what the competition is doing. And so that's the power of leaders getting no bullets. So how does that apply to, that alpha stepping down or giving up control? Because this is me. I'm the alpha. I'm training my new guy to take over my position. My job as a leader is to train my replacement. to train myself out of a job so that I can go bigger and better and actually see the real thing that's going on out there. And
Yeah.
so um and so we can scale and grow and blow things up. So
Wow.
what I tell organizations to do is I'm like, hey, if you have someone who you want to bring up into actually a coaching client, he as a CEO wanted to step out of like the day-to-day stuff so he could focus on bigger and better stuff, and he hires someone to take over that kind of day-to-day operation stuff. And I'm like, okay, so when you have your meeting, make sure that he's prepared. You go in there and say, hey, James is in charge, let James run with it, and you step back. And whatever call James makes, you go with those calls. You don't undermine him in front of the team. Now, don't give him so much power that he does undermine the team,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like you're going to give him enough. And if he makes a bad call, that's okay. Let him run with it. After the meeting, you pull him aside. You do a debrief. What went right? What went wrong? How can you do it better? And oh, by the way, this was a terrible call you made. Let's go ahead
Yeah.
and you go back to the team and you fix it. Like, hey, I made a mistake. This is what we got to do. You have ownership. Like, if the sooner you own your screw ups, the more respect your team is going to have for you.
Oh yeah.
Definitely do not hide your screw ups from your team.
Yeah.
Let them know, hey, I messed this up, or your clients or whatever. I messed this up. I was wrong about this. This is the corrective action, and this is the way we need to move forward. So
Yeah.
that was a very long answer to answer your question.
Hey, no, there was a lot covered in there and some really powerful points. The first thing I want to echo is the shoot, move, communicate, right? Like the three things that matter in a gunfight. And this is just in general in life. Focus on one at a time. The
Exactly.
multitasking,
There's no such thing. It doesn't work.
myth.
I mean,
Yeah,
there's case study after case study.
right,
I looked up tons of case studies, and the organizations that require like multitasking is cool. Like, it's the worst thing you could possibly do. It's the
right.
most it destroys productivity.
It does. Yeah, it
If you
does.
can focus on one thing and one thing only, like, you're gonna crush it.
Oh yeah,
The companies that like focus on not multitasking, I think their performance is 27% better than organizations that don't. Probably
wow.
maybe even more than that. I
I
think that was
believe
an
it.
average, but
No, I believe it. It's such a valuable point. The other thing I liked you said is leaders get no bullets, meaning you actually have to be aware of the bigger picture. And
right,
I think about it as being a proactive leader versus being a reactive leader, thinking ahead. What is going on in the marketplace right now with your competition, with
right,
AI, with technology, with all these other factors, and how can we iterate and evolve, not just focusing on, hey, I'm just going to get on sales calls and here to use my bullets to convert and sell.
right.
It's like, you know yeah, I could do
And
that and maybe
and
I'm
those
good at
leaders are
closing. Yeah,
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
mean, and so it's like it goes back to what you said earlier. It's like that whole delegation. Like, you learn how to
Right.
delegate those
Yeah.
tasks, you know, focus on the thing that you're the best at. And
Right.
sometimes that's sales. Like, maybe, you've got this, and this is where glass eating ceilings often happens with organizations, is they'll come in and they will, the leader, the CEO, whoever who's built this like maybe multi-million dollar company, he can't scale anymore because he's focusing. He doesn't know how to. He's so busy shooting,
Right. Right.
but also his ego gets in the way, and he doesn't
Yeah.
want to hire someone to take over the CEO responsibility. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And so so they're going to be stuck at wherever they are right now.
Right.
You either
Yeah.
have to
Plateau.
hire someone who can shoot as well or almost as well or pretty good, do those sales things so you can actually remove yourself from that part of the gunfight and actually focus on the enemy situation, on the team situation, on the terrain, what's the battlefield look like,
Right.
and figure out what the maneuvers are.
Yeah.
If you're going to be the best sales guy for your organization, then you need to hire someone to actually learn how to maneuver your organization around. But
Oh,
again, that's a lot of
100%.
that's a really just tough call for someone who's like built a multi-million dollar organization. But that comes back to that definition of insanity,
Identity. Yeah, exactly.
right? Identity and insanity, like expecting a different,
Oh, yeah.
for the same. You keep doing the same thing, expecting a different outcome.
Yeah.
You have to change what you're doing
Right.
if you want a
And I
different
think about the
outcome.
10-80-10 principle Dan Martell talks about. He's been on the pod, friend of ours, and he talks about, okay, you do 10% of the task, then you outsource the 80%, the bulk, right? You get it started, but then you give it away to someone who is competent enough to take, the meat of it. And then you finish it off with the 10% review and deploy. This is a great frame for me when I think about delegation. And you have so much gold in here in terms of effective communication, adaptive problem solving, group dynamic integration. I want to respect your time because I know you got stuff coming up. Well, what is the best place for people to go, or I should say, where is the best place for people to go who want to get the book and really dive into this stuff? Because it's very robust. I mean, we obviously can't cover it all now, but where's the best place for them to go?
I would say the book is on Amazon. So if you go
Nice.
to Amazon and type in Mission Ready Book, you can grab it over there. There you can. The best way to reach me is either my Instagram, william.r.branum, or go to the website 5sealsecrets.com. Learn what the Get Naked mindset is,
Yeah.
and if you want to, have me come out and speak or do a workshop and talk about this stuff and do some, do some stuff with your organization, we can have that conversation that way as well.
Yeah, I highly recommend, guys, that at the minimum, follow William and download his copy of his Five Seal Secrets, and then you can learn more about what he's got going on. His book is definitely a must read if you are looking to become a better leader. There's, I mean, he's led at the highest stakes. There's no one who's had more life or death situations that I know of and led men and women through it. So definitely a great mentor in that you know, capacity. I do want to put you through the rapid fire round real quick, William,
Let's do it.
and then we'll wrap this up. So
Yeah, no, we're good.
again,
We got time. We can work it
okay,
out.
okay, cool. First thing that comes to mind, you just answer honestly. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. Happy hustle hack for your health. Something uniquely William. Go.
Walk 1 mile a day.
Like it. All right. Happy hustle hack for your money. Something uniquely William.
Invest in precious metals.
I like it.
I
And
like
happy hustle
silver.
hack for your spirituality. Something you do to connect to a higher power.
Meditate.
Love it. Favorite food.
Sushi.
Best business advice.
Make bold adjustments.
Oh, I like it. Favorite book.
Oh man, there's so many.
I
I'm
know.
gonna go with the one I've probably listened to the most is Law of. Hold on, hold on. It's. I know this is not rapid fire. Napoleon Hill, Law of Success.
Oh, nice. Good read. What's your spirit animal?
This has changed a couple times, but what I'm jumping on right now is some sort of apex predator like a great white shark.
Oh, you know what? I've never heard that. That's a great one for you. I love it. I love that one for you, man. That's good. All right. Favorite movie?
That is a really good question. Um, Star Wars just comes to mind because it's probably been favorite the longest.
Love it.
You know
And
what? No, actually, no.
oh, you got a new one?
There's a reason for it. Inception,
Oh, that's a good.
because you
That
have to
is a
go
good one.
layers deep in the mind to
Yeah,
like make change.
yeah, and get in those corners. I like it. Three things you're most grateful for today.
My health, my family, and freedom.
Heck yeah. And if you had a billboard for the world to see with your last piece of content on there, what's that billboard read, William?
Last piece or most impactful?
Either.
I think, uh, gosh, I think I'm going to go back to bold adjustments. Make bold adjustments
Mm,
because most people, when things aren't working for you, stop doing these iterative changes. Make a bold change that seems like it's the opposite thing you should do. It's
mm,
going to get you closer to the bullseye than not.
interesting. Like it. Crush that rapid fire round, William. And man, brother, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you just for sharing your love, your light, your wisdom, your Five Seal Secrets, your new book, Mission Ready. I mean, and just your authenticity and delivering this message of becoming a better leader and protecting and providing and, just preserving, our freedom and what you've done for our country, man. I'm so grateful for you. I'm grateful to know you and to call you a friend and to just be on this journey and to collaborate. So I'm just, yeah, really grateful for you, man. I just want to say thank you again.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me again. I'm stoked to be here, and I am more than grateful for you.
Awesome, brother. All right. Final question. Before I do, again, remind people best place for them to check out that upcoming event you have and maybe some other links that you're most active on.
SEALLeadershipChallenge.com. Again, I'm sure there'll be a link in the
Yep.
in the podcast notes, but there's also a link on my Instagram, and yeah. And again, you can reach out anytime, and I will send you a link. And it's a super powerful event, and I think you'll get a lot out of it. I know you
Heck
will,
yeah.
actually.
Heck yeah. And final question. I got to ask you again. I'm curious if your answer's shifted. But what does happy hustling mean to you?
Oh man, it means waking up every morning with purpose and getting after it,
Ooh,
and loving what you do.
amen. I love it. Crush that answer and this whole interview. And yeah, mic drop. William Branum, y'all. Thank you for watching and listening. I appreciate the heck out of y'all and keep on happy hustling. Peace and love,
Yes, sir.
everybody.